You can start the session. We are live now.
Thank you, Deepak. A very warm welcome to all the attendees. Thank you for being here with us today. I am Vatsala Khare from the Startup Incubation and Innovation Center at IIT Kanpur, where I lead the mentorship program. I'm excited to be back with another interesting webinar for you all. Today, we have with us Mr. Siddharth Rajhans as a speaker addressing the emerging trends and opportunities in the sustainable development domain. Sharing with you all a brief profile of our speaker today. Mr. Rajhans is an internationally acclaimed entrepreneur, Harvard educated innovator, and a TEDx speaker celebrated for his groundbreaking contributions in technology, space innovation, and the future of work. As the founder of Spacify, Siddharth has pioneered geospatial data analytics using space technologies, reshaping how businesses operate in today's digital world. His focuses on his work focuses on leveraging technology to bring the workspace of tomorrow to life, making him a visionary leader in the tech space. In addition to this entrepreneurial achievements, Siddharth has been recognized globally, featuring in the Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia and Fortune Future Young Achiever list, and is the recipient of the Global Innovator Award also. His career spans leading roles at Apple, Google, where he contributed to product management and innovation. He was instrumental in the Apple's Everyone Can Code initiative and has had the honor of inaugurating Apple's flagship retail vertical in India with the CEO Tim Cook himself. Siddharth's career also includes a transition into multilateral diplomacy and foreign services, where he serves as a policy officer at the UN. He is shaping India's diplomatic voice while, while working on policies related to AI, automation, and sustainability with a focus on global development. With a wealth of experience working in Silicon Valley, Singapore, and India, his expertise spans technology, diplomacy, and public administration. Siddharth is also a serial investor and mentor. He is currently serving on the boards of over 15 startups and guiding numerous successful ventures. His contributions to the academic world are equally impressive, with roles as adjunct professor at Manipal University, Jaipur, and advisor and retainer at JECRC University. We are delighted to have Siddharth deliver a keynote talk on future-proofing sustainability, the emerging trends and opportunities. In this session, he will delve into the importance of integrating technology and sustainability to build resilient, future-ready businesses. For startups, understanding and leveraging these emerging trends will not only ensure long-term growth, but also position them as leaders in driving sustainability in a rapidly changing global economy. Siddharth's deep knowledge of AI, automation, and space tech will provide valuable insights for entrepreneurs looking to innovate with a focus on sustainability. His unique ability to blend technology, diplomacy, and entrepreneurship makes him an exceptional thought leader. His deep understanding of multilateral diplomacy and international relations, combined with his entrepreneurial success, makes him a powerful voice for the future, particularly in the realm of tech innovation and sustainable development. Before we start the session, I humbly request you all to make the session interactive with your thoughts and queries. Please use the chat box, the Q&A box for your queries. In case if anyone wishes to have a dialogue with our speaker, please raise your hand and we will unmute you. Without much further taking more time from you all, I request Mr. Rajhans to take over the session now. Welcome you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Vatsala, for that warm introduction, and thank you everyone at Startup Incubation and Innovation Center of IIT Kanpur for tuning in this afternoon at 4 p.m. on this lecture that we are having. So a girl called Titiksha reached out to me a couple months back regarding the possibility of me speaking for you all at IIT Kanpur's Innovation Center. So I'm glad that we could, arrange this. So thank you, Titiksha and Vatsala, for organizing this, and thank you everyone at the Social Innovation Lab by Citi, and everyone else who's a part of this for tuning in. And so I'm told that you guys are around 40 in number in terms of startups at the Innovation Center, which is a very interesting milestone to have. Especially a lot of startups, I'm told, are working around sustainability, and sustainability solutions are, as I envision, the future of everything we are doing around the UN, around the government, and around a whole lot of spectrum of opportunities that are lying in this domain. So I think what my speech today is all about is helping you guys understand what the future trends are, what the current industry is looking for, and how to build upon a future-proof, sustainable model. Because sustainability is often confused with a lot of things. There is a concept called as greenwashing, a very famous marketing jargon in the US. So greenwashing is basically made out of two words: green plus brainwashing. So a lot of corporates today, they try and make you believe that they are sustainable institutions. So they are greenwashing people into believing green plus brainwashing. So imagine Coca-Cola has the audacity to say that it's a um, conscious drink, and it is conscious for the planet. So these are terminologies you often hear in what we call as the ESG, environmental, social, and governance dialogue of these organizations. So in the ESG annual bulletin, which is part of the annual general body meeting, minutes of the meeting, the overall investor portfolio of the institution, they all issue a ESG, a couple pages or an entire booklet on their ESG 2023-24 performance or 24-25 performance, wherein you will always find this, that all of these institutions, despite their capitalist approach, always try and behave as if they are very responsible, where they are very sustainable institutions. The same goes with Apple, because Apple has always had to face backlash because of a lot of things, like what if there's employment of child labor in some mine in Africa where you're mining silicon and all. So I think a lot of these institutions try and build frameworks which must take forward the ethos of sustainability. Institutions like Apple, institutions like Google are a little bit more responsible in their overall approach towards sustainability, because they have made enough wealth. They care for the planet, they care for the people. However, there are a whole lot of bunch of companies today that are yet trying to crack that sustainability equation. So how do you turn your business sustainable? And if, since most of you are startup entrepreneurs, at this stage of life, at this stage of your career, how do you convert your business into a practically feasible model around sustainability and sustainability inspired solutions? So one of the fundamental ideas here is that, how this entire journey of businesses that exist today began. For me, this all begins with a word called Web 3.0. Web 3.0 is the name of the decade, is the name of the era that we are currently living in. Most of you all are aware, very well aware, that Web 3.0 offers a whole lot of opportunities. You keep hearing these buzzwords: Web 3.0, generative AI, all of these opportunities all the time, right? So you must question yourself, if this is Web 3.0, there has to be a Web 2.0. And before that, there has to be something called as Web 1.0. So when we talk of Web 2.0 and 1.0, I would like to explain these as decades. Decades that transformed the tech industry and transformed the entrepreneurial industry. Because entrepreneurship always existed. It's just that in the last, I would say, 2 decades, it has been recognized as a standalone industry platform, as a standalone opportunity for people to pursue something after college. So that is where one of the fundamental questions you must counter. You all have heard of Tatas, you all have heard of Reliance. Of course, I'm not addressing you face to face, but I'm sure that you might, interact with me towards this end of this conversation with questions. One of the fundamental questions is, you look at the Tata Group. If I have to ask you, how old is the Tata Group? You may give me an answer: around a century old. It is true. The Tata Group by itself, Jamshedji Nusirwanji Tata, they're close to around 150 to 200 years old, the origins of the Tata Group. Now, imagine what is the market cap of the Tata Group, the market capitalization. So, if you have to give me a number, that comes to somewhere around $400 billion. And in terms of the international standards, that's only $400 billion. Now, imagine a company that has been in existence for 200 years has a market cap of only $400 billion. Same example is of Reliance. The Reliance Group is a very wealthy group. They're very profitable. We all saw that during their endless weddings and all of that. Now, if you look at Reliance, how old they are, they're close to around 50, 60, 70 years old, half a century old. And what is their market cap? Again, somewhere around 300 to $400 billion. That's all. Now you look at the examples of Facebook or Google or one of these institutions. How old is Facebook, if I have to ask you? So the company started in 2003, 2004. By 2024, it was just about 2 decades old, 20 years old. But Facebook is worth over $800 billion, my friends. The same goes with Google. Google recently celebrated its 25th anniversary. It was started in 1998 by Larry Page and Sergey Brin at their dorm room in Stanford University. A company that was just around 25 years old is at $1 trillion. So you're looking at this trend, right? So all of this explosion in our entrepreneurial ecosystem, in entrepreneurship in general, has happened over the last 2 decades. All of these businesses that have grown exponentially. And there is a real world attraction to entrepreneurship today because businesses have the potential to grow exponentially. So you all are students at IIT or being incubated at the Innovation Center at IIT. So you must be aware of arithmetic progression and geometric progression, right? In careers that were there until 20 years back in your parents' generation and all, those careers used to grow in arithmetic progression. Whereas today, because of entrepreneurship, you have the opportunity to grow in geometric progression. Geometric progression as in exponential growth. So today you might be at 2, but in 3 years down the line, you might be at 16, 32, 64, and so on. So entrepreneurship presents you with an opportunity for exponential growth. And that is why all of these institutions, from Facebook to Google, all of them have grown so exponentially. Whereas companies that are very profitable, very successful, that are 150 to 200 years old, have only managed to build a market cap of 300 to $400 billion. Now, at the heart of all this is a concept known as data monetization or ad monetization, which is fundamentally the reason for the growth of all of these institutions. And the reason why this has happened is because of a thing called internet. Businesses of the internet, they have grown exponentially over the last 2 decades. So all of this, it starts somewhere in the early 90s, my friends. If I have to ask you, how does internet arrive in your homeland? How does internet happen? So the answer to that is a technology known as deep sea cables. So deep sea cables were an actual network of cables that were laid under oceans, the great oceans, the Pacific, the Atlantic, and so on. And they were in the 60s and 70s. This is how our telecommunications process evolved. Now, when internet happened in the 1990s, of course, the only company back then who could afford to get an internet line for India was a company known as Tata Internet Services. So in 1990-91, something happened in our country. We call it LPG. LPG doesn't stand for liquefied petroleum gas. This means liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So in the context of India, this technology, this movement of policy happened. And because of that, we were able to connect to the world. So at that time, Tata was one of the companies that got one deep sea cable from Nariman Point that actually penetrated internet across the country. So now when internet happened, there was a man called Tim Berners-Lee. Tim Berners-Lee is known as the father of the WWW, World Wide Web. So in 93, 94, Tim Berners-Lee, he gave this terminology, the World Wide Web. He said that this is going to be the future of information exchange, of data exchange. You have so many computers. You have this new form of electricity connecting all those computers. You're going to have a massive information overload. You're going to have so many data points from across these computers that are going to be shared. So when he drew that diagram at MIT, in that diagram, he saw an entire web being formed, like a spider's web. So he gave it the terminology World Wide Web. So that's how the entire concept of World Wide Web came into existence. Now, you must take pride in a fact, again, not very much known to people, that how did the modern version of the internet happen? There was again an Indian brain who was at the heart of it. I am close friends with his wife, Asha Jadeja Motwani, who's a great investor, entrepreneur herself. Her husband, her late husband, Professor Rajiv Motwani, was at the forefront of the version of the internet or entrepreneurial ecosystem that you see today. So Professor Rajiv Motwani, who's now no longer with us, he was the HOD of computer science at Stanford University. So it so happens that at Stanford, he had understood that now we have the World Wide Web. So we need to create a model that intersects the possibilities of communication between them. When phone lines happened, right, everyone got phones, everyone had numbers and identities assigned to it. We needed something called as a directory, right? Yellow pages to understand whose number is whose. So we needed a yellow pages version of the internet. Now that we had multiple millions of computers being connected to this network, we wanted a search engine, an ability to search through the multiple data points that were available globally. And that is where something very interesting happened. Professor Rajiv Motwani started working on an algorithm. The algorithm is known as PageRank algorithm. It was a 500-page mathematical treatise that he had written that would help a search engine evolve and basically rank pages on the basis of its visibility, on the basis of its importance, on the basis of its ranking methodology for search results on the internet. So Professor Rajiv Motwani started working on this. Now, in typical American fashion, there were two students, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, whom you now know as, whom history would later know as the founders of Google. So Larry Page and Sergey Brin, my friends, they were doctoral students under Professor Rajiv Motwani. So both Larry Page and Sergey Brin went ahead. They said that this is something very interesting. Let us convert this into a website. So as part of their doctoral submission to Professor Rajiv Motwani, they were both doctoral students under Professor Motwani. They submitted their first website known as Google. They said this is going to take your PageRank algorithm and put it into real-time action. So that is how this entrepreneurial ecosystem that you see today, innovation, incubation, all of this, it began with that fundamental focal point. I call it the focal point of the evolution of internet and entrepreneurship. So 1998 was the birth of the search engine experience. And from there, my friends, we enter a decade known as Web 1.0. We all know that we are currently living in a decade known as Web 3.0. We often hear this terminology. I think all of you startups that are being incubated at IIT Kanpur are very well aware that you use Web 3.0 in every other dialogue or every other statement that you quote. Web 1.0 happened from 2000 to 2010, the first decade of the internet. And there is a very interesting analogy that I have, formed. It's also part of a book that's coming up with Penguin that I've written, the evolution of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, how it happened. So the very first decade, my friends, Web 1.0 is from 2000 to 2010. Now, it is very interesting. As entrepreneurs, you must remember this, you must focus on this. In the first 2 or 3 years of every decade, there comes a technology that by the end of that decade becomes a major player, a major entity, world ruling entity in the entrepreneurial spectrum. So in the first decade of the internet, we had a search engine, but a few people got to thinking, now we can search across information across the globe, but we don't have a search engine for people. We need a search engine for people. Thus was born a concept known as social networking. Now, in the early years of social networking, you had some websites. The websites weren't Facebook. The websites weren't what you would now refer to as social networking. They were MySpace and Orkut. So for anyone who has had an internet experience in the early years of the birth of the internet was familiar with Orkut. So in India, particularly, Orkut was a massive hit. Now, the story behind Orkut is also a very interesting one. There was a man called Orkut Byokotan. You can search for him on Instagram. He just has around 10,000, 11,000 followers. That's it. The man is literally the founder of social networking, the father of social networking, lost in internet anonymity forever. So I think that speaks volumes about how startups evolve. There's a lot of learning in the first decade of the internet, Web 1.0. Now, Orkut Byokotan was a product designer, was a product manager at Google. he, in his free time, used the amount of resources Google had, both money, internet, and folks, and decided to build this website called Orkut. In the months that followed, it picked up, it became viral, especially in countries like India. Everyone after school hours would go home and log into this website known as Orkut. So this entire revolution of sorts happened in the social networking spectrum. Now there is a very important learning. Orkut was not a real entrepreneur, the man, right? He was not a true entrepreneur. He was only a product manager looking at building a website that would make a nice little space on the internet. Little did he know that it would go viral and all of that. So Google at that point, they offered him around $57,000, which later they negotiated to around 100K. The man just received $1 lakh, and the man at that point was very happy. He thought, I'm getting a great exit because his salary was close to around $46,000 an annum. So he thought, I'm receiving 2 years of my salary for this website. The guy sold the very website to Google. Now, Google, my friends, their core competency at that point was not running a social networking website. They were focused on search, they were focused on YouTube, on Chrome, all of these other verticals. Orkut did not receive the kind of encouragement, the nourishment, the care, the focus it must have from the leadership. So if you remember 2008 to 10, Orkut started falling. I remember in 2011, we all received an email saying that Orkut would no longer be available. You can download a copy of your scrapbook or whatever that was called in the era of Orkut. So that was the fall of Orkut. Perseverance is the word here. In order to be a good entrepreneur, the number one thing is ideas have no value, my friends. Ideas, just merely thinking of it, will never take you any far away. Remember, there's a very famous saying that says vision without execution is delusion. यानी आपके पास अगर एक विजन है बट अगर आप उसे एग्जीक्यूट नहीं कर रहे हैं टाइम पे तो मात्र आपका भ्रम है. You are only delusional about it. So that is a very fundamental thing you must all remember as entrepreneurs. There is no such thing as great or I did it the best. Execution, merely doing it is always better than the best. So remember that you are not here to perfect your model. You are here to execute your model, because the only way you can learn from it is by taking it to the market. So that's why they say, great ideas go to the graveyard. Only normal ideas, but executed really well, become successful. So if you want to look at a mediocre idea, go to your grocery store, because that's an idea that has been done tens and thousands of times, but it has been executed well. So do not spend too much time in your incubation center trying to perfect your go-to-market strategy. Just go out there and experiment. The second biggest thing is perseverance. Do not leave your model. Do not build your model in the hope of taking a quick exit. That does not ever materialize. Taking a quick exit is often a case study for failure in the startup domain. So do not build something in the hope of wanting to take an exit, especially in sustainability. You have to show real world impact. Only then your model is considered sound enough. So you have to stick around with it as long as possible. This is probably one of the fundamental lessons that the Orkut example teaches us. Around the same time, there were two boys called the Winklevoss twins. Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, they were both in fourth year at Harvard University. They were psychology graduates. They also thought of the idea that we need to build a social networking website. Now, those two boys did not have coding skills, so they floated an ad in the Harvard Crimson. They said that we will pay $10 an hour to someone who will help us build this website. Now, along comes a first year Mark Zuckerberg. He's just admitted in computer science, knows a little bit of Java, knows a little bit of Python. He says, I can start building this website. So that's how the birth of what we refer to as social networking in true sense happens. Zuckerberg goes around, he plays around a few ideas and finally lands up building this thing called Facebook. Now the boys, Winklevoss twins, they were out on a vacation. It was summertime. In the 2 or 3 months that followed, Facebook was launched across Harvard, was launched across the Ivy League. Within the next 3 months, it had already surged 100 million users across continental US, UK, and most parts of the developed world at that point. So Zuckerberg gets a call. Typically, what you see in Shark Tank, there was a man called Sean Parker who called up Zuckerberg. He said that I'll invest $50 million in this. This is the future of what the internet experience must look like. So you come down to Silicon Valley and we'll help you start this company. So Zuckerberg drops out of Harvard, goes around, builds that. And that's when the Winklevoss twins get upset. They come back to Zuckerberg, they sue him. They say this is our idea. Zuckerberg, of course, at that point of time gave them a quick exit for around 40-50 million dollars. They felt they were really happy receiving it. They went ahead, did their MBA. Today, both of them, they work in a company called McKinsey, or until the last time I heard of them. Whereas Zuckerberg, at the same time, my friends, he persevered with the idea. Today, Facebook, is over $800 billion. Zuckerberg himself is worth $200 billion. The idea is that ideas are no one's monopoly. Merely knowing it or thinking of it will not take you any far. Execute it at the right time. In the case of Zuckerberg, of course, coding skills did come to his rescue. Because I'm speaking to a IIT Kanpur batch, I'm an IIT alumnus myself. So I think I realized the importance of uh, coding skills. We all tend to learn a foreign language at some point of time in our lives. Remember, technology has a language. That language is called coding, and you must take charge of your coding. I'm sure you all have wonderful websites and apps, or some are already in that stage of development. Don't, if you do not come from a coding background, do not leave it to a bunch of developers and in the hope that they might create it. You can learn it yourself from all of these tools that are available today. You have Udemy, Udacity, Coursera, Khan Academy, edX. You have hundreds and thousands of courses. At least a basic fundamental knowledge, working knowledge of Python, working knowledge of app building programs such as Swift or Firebase by Google or Swift by Apple. So Swift is the coding language for iOS, watchOS, macOS, tvOS. So some fundamental working knowledge of these will actually take you much farther than what you are currently pursuing. So that is one important lesson you can derive. Now we come back to the Web 1.0 theory. The end of the decade, Web 1.0, a company that had just started in the first 2 or 3 years, my friends. That was Facebook for you. By 2010, it had become a gateway to our internet experience. Anyone who was there in 2010, the first thing they would do is, apart from check out something on Google, they would log into their Facebook page. So it had become a gateway to the internet. The idea here is these decades of the internet, Web 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0, they present a unique opportunity, an early mover advantage, which not a lot of people are realizing. Peter Thiel, a man who writes a book called Zero to One, he has spent his life explaining this, the early mover advantage. If you do something in the first 2 or 3 years of the decade, by the end of that decade, you have future proofed your career and your concept. So that is what is leading me to the title of the talk today, Future Proofing Sustainability. Now begins the second decade of the internet, my friends. Web 2.0 जिसको हम कहते हैं. तो वेब 2.0 कौन से साल से कौन से साल तक आया अगर मैं आपसे पूछूं तो so it was 2011 to 2020. Now again, ask yourself this fundamental question: what technologies happened in the first 2 or 3 years of Web 2.0 that had become the industry leader by the end of that decade? This is the same exponential concept that I tried to explain in the beginning. Your career will have a geometric progression if you choose a career in this direction. This is why entrepreneurship excites all of us. So in 2011, my friends, something happened. The decade changed forever. A new technology came. And I want you to think hard. Whenever I have asked this question, very recently I was at IIT Bombay. I asked the entire batch there, and the students gave me a lot of different answers. One of them said that 2011. So he said that Windows XP or Windows something like that happened. And then someone else said that I think a lot of new ideas started coming up in the ecosystem. A lot of funds started coming. Someone then said apps started happening. Before apps, my friends, something happened. Smartphones. The answer is smartphones. The Web 2.0 decade was singularly dominated by a concept known as smartphones. Phones that could carry the power of the internet, that could carry your desktop computing power in your pocket. Simple idea. So 2007, Steve Jobs gives this famous speech about the birth of the iPhone. He says we have a Internet Explorer, we have a calling device, a communicator, and we have an iPod, all three merged into one. By 2010, we had a Windows market, which was by that time being played by Nokia. And then we had an entire Android market in which Samsung was a front runner. And then there were a whole lot of other Chinese companies that came into it. 2011, almost every other second person started having a smartphone, a new touchscreen device. With the birth of smartphones, something interesting happened. the birth of apps happened, my friends. So people started having apps. These were applications, softwares that were previously available to people on a desktop computer. They had come on a mobile platform. So apps started happening, my friends. And because of the power of apps, some people realized that this is going to shake the world. And I remember meeting two very distinct people. One guy was a very good friend of mine named Brian Acton. Brian and me, even this morning, we had a WhatsApp chat. The other guy is Kevin Systrom. Now, I know these people are not known or very famous by their very names, but let me tell you, Brian Acton and Jan Koum are the co-founders of WhatsApp, and Kevin Systrom, my friends, is the co-founder of Instagram. And both of these young boys, just fresh computer science graduates at that point of time, 2011-12, in Silicon Valley, were realizing the potential that the end of this decade will be marked by the development of a global app economy. Today, the world thrives on apps. And so if you are entering the startup ecosystem today, you need to know these fundamentals that have already existed. So Brian Acton and Jan Koum in 2011 were building an app known as WhatsApp. Back then, WhatsApp was even chargeable. You might realize that WhatsApp today is free. Back then, WhatsApp used to charge $1 per year to keep their subscription up and running. Only 25 people working out of a small office in San Jose, California, in Silicon Valley, were working on WhatsApp. And when I visited their office, they had a post-it notes, Brian Acton on his desktop, that said no bullshit, flawless coding, and no spamming. And that is exactly what he delivered. Whenever we want to text someone, we say, I'll WhatsApp it to you. Like every big bus is a Volvo, every washing powder is Nirma, every glucose biscuit is Parle-G. Similarly, every time I want to text someone, I say I will WhatsApp it to you. That was the birth of what we refer to as the entire internet experience, the entire IM industry today, instant messaging industry. आपको आज किसी को text करना होता है, I'll say I'll WhatsApp it. You don't say I will Viber it to you, hike it to you, Kakao Talk it to you, WeChat it to you, Skype it to you. You build a product or service so flawless, it becomes a synonym of the industry you want to cater to. The number one lesson that I can give you right now is that you have to make it flawless. And that is exactly what Brian Acton and Jan Koum did with WhatsApp. They started building it at a very early stage when the world needed instant messaging. They wanted to text people because the biggest problem was, in order to simply communicate with people over text, you had to do something called as SMS, which was really expensive in the international domain. And in order to send a video or a photo, you had to send something called as a MMS, which, despite its negative connotation, it was very expensive. So they were trying to solve that problem. Why not use the internet to deliver text and photos and videos for free? And that is exactly what WhatsApp was building. At the same time, another young guy called Kevin Systrom. Kevin Systrom realized the potential that people no longer wish to click photographs and store them away in lockers in their home. He combined that power with social networking. And along comes the world's biggest aggregator of photos, medias, and real-time content anywhere in the world, Instagram, as we call it. And both of these companies, if you remember, they came in the first 2 or 3 years of the decade, 2011, 12, and 13. By 2020, mere dosto at IIT Kanpur, before waking up, even before washing your face, the first thing you did was check your WhatsApp and check your Instagram. So what I'm trying to tell you is, in the first 2-3 years, you notice that there are technologies that come, there are ideas that come, there are startups that come, that change the face of entrepreneurship forever. By the end of that decade, they become industry leaders. And that is exactly what happened. WhatsApp got acquired by a company. That company is called Meta today. They got acquired for $19 billion at that time. One of the highest billion-dollar acquisitions. It was the fastest and one of the highest billion-dollar unicorns of our time. Again, with a very small team size. At that time, they had only 50 people in their team, and 22 months. They built a company that was worth $19 billion. At the same time, we had Kevin Systrom of Instagram. In 2014, much earlier than WhatsApp, Meta acquired Instagram. For $1 billion, Meta acquired Instagram. And at that point, they were only 27 people. In 14 months, they had managed to build the world's largest aggregator of photos, videos, and real-time content. This model is called a lean startup model, a concept that has often been taught, and I'm sure you all are aware of it, a lean enterprise model. This is something that you must focus on. Today is no longer the era where you can manage. One of the biggest challenges of running a successful startup is team management. And I think managing a highly complex team is often the biggest reason for people's downfall. I know Baiju very well, the guy behind Baiju's the app. The reason why they failed, a large part of it is also because of dwindling team dynamics. So I think it's very important that you must focus on fundamentally trying to solve for your basic equation about team building and team management, and trying to make it appear as if it is a lean enterprise, because you have to have very specific roles. You have to assign extremely specific portfolios to everyone. You need to be very selective in the way you select people, because people need to be there for their specific skill set, not for a very randomized skill set. So be very careful in building your team. The second decade exactly taught us that. But in addition to that, they also taught us about some very fundamental ideas that within the first 2 or 3 years, if you started working on a new technology, chances are you will be an industry leader by the end of the decade. And this was very, very true for what we call as the Web 2.0 decade, my friends, 2011 to 2020. I remember there was a guy called Gurinder Singh Sachdeva. He was in a university in Punjab at that point of time in 2011. I used to visit a conference known as WWDC. I have been there almost 15 years now, the Worldwide Developers Conference by Apple. This was the reason I started even working for Apple. That conference became a gateway. And at the WWDC, this little boy from Punjab University, computer science student, he came in 2011, realized that app building might be the future. But I clearly remember standing outside Bill Graham Civic Auditorium in San Francisco. We had a chat for around 15-20 minutes before the event would begin and we would be allowed inside. At that point, the guy says to me, "Sir, I don't have that much capital. I am actually looking at raising some capital. I have great startup ideas, in fact, app ideas, and I am an iOS developer, but I don't have a lot of money. So I'm either thinking of raising some funds while I'm in Silicon Valley. Maybe you or some of your friends can help, or I'll probably just head back home and I'll figure out." And at that point, I gave him a simple advice. It's not always important that you must start up. You must start up with the amount of funds, or if you have an idea, you can also just work around as an iOS developer, because there is immense potential for you. The guy took that advice seriously. In the years that followed, the guy was one of the core developers of what we call as housing.com. He was one of the core developers of Flipkart Lite, the Flipkart Lite mobile app that was released. He went on to work for cleartax.com. He went on to work for several startups in India. And very recently, the guy received an exit from Ola, working under Bhavish, and he has made a lifetime of money. He has received an exit at 66 crores. And at 2024, the guy has almost retired, just in his early 30s. So it's not important that you must always start up in that domain that you have figured out. It's also important to start working as fast as possible as an industry professional. These are some of the most important learnings that the Web 1.0 and 2.0 decades have given us. Now, my friends, comes the time for Web 3.0, the decade that we are currently living in, from 2021 to 2030. And right now, you might be very surprised to hear that we have again received a technology that has changed the face of the industry right now. The name of the technology, like most of you could guess, is AI, or generative AI, as we call it. Again, you must notice Sam Altman, a man who was working on it incognito for almost 7 to 8 years. He was building an incubator, very much like yourselves, called Y Combinator. The man kept building Y Combinator, and in stealth mode, the man builds the world's most complex natural language processing model, known as ChatGPT. So today, Microsoft owns OpenAI, which has this product called ChatGPT. Google owns Bard, which has now been renamed to Gemini. And at the same time, we have Meta AI, Llama 3, which is owned by Facebook, the Meta organization, and has been integrated into your WhatsApp and Instagram. So today you already have AI. AI is here. And by 2030, there is a huge possibility that most career options, most startup experiences will be designed around AI. Every decade, it presents us with an opportunity in the first 2 or 3 years. ये हमारे ऊपर है, हम उस opportunity को spot करें और उस पे capitalize करें. And around AI, a very interesting thing is happening. We recently had something called as Summit of the Future at the United Nations in New York. Summit of the Future was designed around two things: the future of responsible AI and the future of sustainability. Sustainability has been at the heart of our experience of what we are building at the UN. One of the reasons I moved to the UN was to experience sustainability and actually make it happen for real. When I looked at the SDGs, you all are aware of the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, 17 of them. When I looked at them, I'll be very honest, it looked like a bunch of colored posters made by a fifth standard student. So I was not very impressed. So आज की तारीख में most work around sustainability is happening around being SDG compliant. And I don't think that is a very reasonable thing to do. Most organizations that are working towards sustainability are only fulfilling their ESG statement. We are ESG compliant. We have our corporate governance in place. We have our sustainability solutions in place. We are environmentally conscious. 4 पेड़ लगा देने से या थोड़ी बहुत सस्टेनेबिलिटी के बारे में लिटरेरी बातें करने से solution nahi hasil hoga. There is a whole lot of, so there is a Venn diagram, a beautiful Venn diagram that says this is Web 3.0. This is where we are having all of these technologies. And that the intersection of it says we have generative AI coming from Web 3.0. We have sustainability over here. The intersection of that includes all of the conscious efforts we must do in order to bring sustainability to practice. And the third bubble is the future. By 2030, what is it that will dominate the industry? So right now, while generative AI is dominating the technology front of the industry, we have something called as sustainability, which a lot of organizations are aware of. A lot of startups have started working, but it is still a buzzword. So there is an important possibility for all of you to turn this tide and create a viable product or service in this platform. One of the most fundamental things you must do right now is around climate action. There is a whole lot of talk. There is a whole integration of technology around climate action is one such domain. Integration of technology around anything to do with urban forestry is one such process. There is a very brilliant idea called as the Miyawaki forests. It was pioneered by a Japanese man. He helps create urban forests. And I was really impressed in Europe, in a couple places. I saw startups who have taken that concept of Miyawaki and created urban forests. They are doing really well. It's a viable business model. Just like आपके घरों में आज लोग पेंट लगाते हैं, आज आपके घरों में लोग wallpaper लगाते हैं. They charge you per square feet. Similarly, those startups, they are also charging people per square feet for the amount of urban cover they are covering using very sophisticated urban forestry concepts and knowledge. So I think concepts like these, creating real world impact. If you want to become a startup that is responsible for afforestation, do not merely go around creating an ESG compliance saying that I have planted so many trees and so many things. Create a business model, a viable solution around it. So integrate your business acumen, bring in technology, and identify areas around climate action. There are a whole lot of startups that are working on cloud seeding. There are a whole lot of startups that are working on reducing oil spills in the oceans. These are the real problem statements. So future-proofing sustainability, the birth of that concept begins with identifying the right problem statements and building on a technological solution around it. You all have heard of Greta Thunberg, and you all know that she's a big climate activist, all of that. However, I have my own reservations. Most of the people who are being recognized in sustainability are individuals who have not done enough. They are only speaking about it. So as part of this very conversation, my friends, of course, it has been in a limited time, but I wish to tell you that do not focus merely on trying to just leapapoti mat karo sustainability ke naam pe. That is where, and just activism, just talking of it won't help. Your problem statements are right in front of you. Go deep into the topic. Research is the fundamental bedrock of building a sustainability-based model. Do not hurry up. Do not enter the startup industry around sustainability just because it is a buzzword. Try and do sufficient research. I'll give you a brilliant example. You all have heard of Greta Thunberg. At that same time, there is a man called Boyan Slat, Boyan space SLAT. I want you to go home and search about it. Boyan Slat also was awarded by Google, awarded by UN, but his work has not been recognized as much as Greta Thunberg or someone else. But his work is brilliant. The guy realized that oil spills on oceans are the biggest threat to maritime life, are the biggest threat to our oceanic properties. So he has created this entire mechanism of reducing oil spillage on oceans and even clearing out oil spillage on oceans. So around climate change, there is a whole lot of actionable work that can be done. Most of the problem statements are right in front of you. Start working on them, identify which technological area it intersects with, try building an app. Always remember that product based solutions in the sustainability industry are tough to build, but you can always create a service based entity around it. One of the ideas is you could become a bridge for organizations that want to achieve their ESG compliance. Most organizations today have a dedicated CSR budget, they have a dedicated ESG team. However, their understanding of it only is limited to the publication of an annual ESG journal. You have an opportunity to become that outsourcing entity, just like a TCS, the TCS or Infosys model of sustainability. I call it like that. Like TCS and Infosys, back in the day when US companies wanted to build their websites and wanted to run their backend operations, they would outsource that work to a TCS or Infosys. Today, I can personally give you a list of 5,000 companies in India that are working towards sustainability, that want to be known as sustainable institutions, as ESG compliant institutions. However, the lack of experts in this domain, the lack of expertise, the lack of research in this domain is stopping them from accomplishing that. I can connect you to most of these institutions if you have a model in place. If you can work around fulfilling ESG compliance, trust me, this is the greatest opportunity that 2024 is presenting before you. The ability to learn from our old startup insights, the TCS or Infosys model, the service model, and combining that with sustainability solutions, creating a playbook for sustainability for individuals and organizations. I think that is the greatest thing you can do. By 2030, you would have done enough business because all of these institutions, Indigo, one of India's most successful airlines, if you go, there is a campaign called Indigo Green, one of their leading CSR initiatives or ESG initiatives. Around that, there is not much work. All they have been doing is restoring a few forts here and there, planting a few trees, just taking group pictures. The team itself has only 7 individuals. You can find them on LinkedIn. So I think institutions today, I met with the CEO of Indigo, a man called Peter Elbers, comes from Netherlands. He himself said that, we are looking for people in sustainability, if you know professionals. And that is where the startup industry must present a beautiful solution. We are not here to give hiring solutions for sustainability people. Why not create a single platform interface? If you have an ESG compliance requirement, a sustainability requirement, bring it to us. We design the idea and we implement it. You just pay us our budget. I think this is one of the best ideas, because future-proofing sustainability is in the hands of startups only. As long as you depend on corporates, they are only going to delve on what I said in the beginning, greenwashing. None of them care 1 rupee about where the planet is heading, about the humanity, about our climate crisis, about anything to do with the SDGs. Even the UN only cares about the SDGs as long as people keep using those posters here and there, saying that we are SDG 4 compliant, we are SDG 9 compliant, and so on. Doesn't work that way. So I think there is a huge opportunity right now. Create a platform, an Infosys or TCS model for companies that can solve the sustainability crisis and at the same time make good money. Remember that there is nothing wrong in making good money in the sustainability domain. In order for your startup to run, it needs to be practically implementable, scalable, and financially viable. The 3 tips that I have always given entrepreneurs: practically implementable, financially viable, and scalable. It needs to be scaled. It needs to make money. So there are incredible opportunities that await you. Work on the intersection of bridging the corporate deficit of sustainability and the startup research of sustainability. There is a service industry that can be bridged between this. There is no one working around it. There is an incredible opportunity that awaits. So start working on that. I'd be very happy to also visit you all in person at IIT Kanpur. and hopefully in the future and invest in some of your startups if you have the potential. And I'm also available on Instagram and LinkedIn. My name is Siddharth Rajhans. That's Rajhans. So you can, it's the same name on LinkedIn and Instagram. So you can add me there and we'll take this conversation forward. If you have any questions, we can take a few of them right now. The rest you can always DM to me on Instagram or just drop me a message on LinkedIn and I'll be very happy to connect. So I think it's 5 o'clock and right time for me to stop. So thank you so much, Vatsala, for hosting me, Titiksha for arranging this, and to the Startup Incubation and Innovation Center at IIT Kanpur for attending this conference. I had a great time addressing all of you, and I'll be online, but I'll be very soon coming down to your campus. So looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth. So do we have any questions? Please raise your hands. Yeah, okay. Deepak, please unmute your mic, yes.
Yes, please go ahead, everyone.
Sandeepji, please.
Thank you so much, Siddharth. It was a wonderful session. I'm very happy to gather the knowledge from you. So, Siddharth, I am working on menstrual hygiene, especially. Our
Okay.
startup called Mild Cares. We are in women health and wellness. So, what we have started recently, like we are replacing the sanitary napkin wastage by a very modern product called menstrual cup. But in India, there is less than 1% menstruator are adopted so far. However, in the country, it's around 18 to 20% menstruator are start using that. So what we are doing is we are implementing this particular product with the help of some agency like National Health Mission and other women health focused making like NGO and implementing tier 2 and tier 3 cities for making wastage-free villages and wastage-free campuses looks like. So I want your insight on that, how it is. We are facing a two major problem in that. The one is cultural barrier, like it required to insert inside the body. So it is this is the one challenge which we are facing. So we need to give them the awareness and education and again. This is number one. Secondly, the things is which is we need the particular agency who can help us into this building this particular model, as we have the investor with us. However, they are us to build the sales revenue and yes,
absolutely
so the pressure which we have. However, we implemented this. We have implemented with the help of some CSR, and we did the one village sanitary napkin free recently in 28th of Menstrual Hygiene Day in Uttar Pradesh. And that model has been appreciated by National Health Mission. And we want your help into this implementation and your insight as of now.
Oh yeah, I think it's a great idea, Sandeep ji. I've been noticing the rise of menstrual cups for a while. A lot of tier 2 cities have now got their own startups in this domain who are working on it. Now, most of them fundamentally one problem they are facing is how the go-to-market strategy for it. Making it available online or even at chemist stores or even via awareness and all of that. That's a major issue. So one of the ways you can actually do it is reaching out to gynecologists and making this product visible at gynecology clinics and so on, because this is one place where people actually visit, and with the help of gynecologists, they are assured that using this is a safe alternative to the previous things that are available in the market. Now, the other way is to actually also get a gynecologist or two on board, because they are the ones who can actually promote this product. So you do need that channel to be developed, that medical authority channel to be developed. At the same time, there are a little bit of challenges to the product in the sense that, in the Indian market particularly, while it is a great alternative to pads and all, but I think adoption will take a little bit of time. So you must build on your online conversation. Like PSafe, there is a company called PSafe. They also make a lot of interesting products. Some of them were initially not very because of the taboo around this conversation, people were not very comfortable. But if you look at their Instagram campaign, if you look at their conversation, they've actually tried to bridge that gap. They have been able to create a healthy conversation around it. So creating a narrative, both offline with gynecologists and online on social media, will help you, balance this taboo around how people adopt this. And at the same time, I feel, one of the ways you can actually make sure this product reaches people, because number one thing right now is that you may not be able to see immediate sales. You have to reach the market, because once only people use it, and especially women, they will be able to realize that this is something safe, it has to be adopted, and so on. So I think one of the ways you could do it is you can reach out to us at the UN, etc. I'll try and incorporate it as part of some of the NGO like movements or drives that we do, because as part of that we'll fund you. So your investment part of the product is taken care of, and we disperse it amongst people based on how their adoption for this is. So I think from there we can actually get people, we can build some traction. So your focus right now is to build some traction, reach out to not just the UN, as many bodies as you can. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they are also working in this direction. So reach out to institutions like these, identify what is it that you can do for them. Maybe give out a few samples for free initially, and then just partner with them. So they take care of your investment part, and at least give out samples for free to people in villages and urban areas and so on, so that people are aware that this is a very safe and healthy alternative for menstruation. So I think a combination of these philosophies can help you develop a sound market base. Once you have developed that, I think from there you can just take it off.
Thank you, Sandeep ji,
Thank you
for
so
your
much.
question. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Deepak, we have
Anyone
two more
else would like to
questions.
connect?
Yes, we have two more
Participants I can see.
questions. There is
Yes.
Cluix, please unmute him, and unmute Dhanabalji also. We'll go with Cluix first.
Okay.
Hello. Hi, Mr. Siddharth. This is Rajesh.
Hi, Rajesh.
A great session, and I'm a follower
you.
of you as on the social media site as well. The previous
Okay,
question
great.
you added as just a
Yeah.
follow-up on that. We just before that we are basically a clean tech startup included IIT Delhi and IIT Kanpur, and we have
Okay.
developed a IoT-based handheld water quality analyzer. So we measure
I see.
drinking water at the last mile. You mentioned that reaching out to the government and development sectors are the two key customers basically who are basically working on the water side, basically not much in.
Absolutely.
But when you
Yeah.
go out and when we're going to raise funds, this becomes negative. That's not the investors don't look this as a very fruitful, because they believe that government, again, the risk is there in the payment, development sector, it is not scalable. But as a startup, we started with these things, and now we have validated different use cases altogether. So how do you see, Mr. Siddharth, you, and also from a global point of view, we see a lot of traction there, like North America, lead is a big challenge, which in the
Absolutely.
So quick words on you. I know the time is limited. I would love to have a detailed discussion, but maybe if you can help us with that.
Absolutely, Rajesh. Thank you for your question. I think it's a great idea. This is a very emerging market, like you mentioned, and also globally there is a huge requirement for this. Since you have use cases and you have validated this across IIT Delhi and this place, I think there's a great opportunity. Yes, you are right that in the sense that when you approach governmental institutions for initial work, that is perceived negatively by investors. But however, you can also mention that this is one of the early go-to-market strategies. Most investors today are okay with it. Working with the government long-term might not be the best way to take this forward. So for that, there are intergovernmental institutions like the UN, like the World Health Organization, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So today, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, all of them are working in India around these areas, and they're doing decent work. So I think approaching the intergovernmental space of the NGO organizations that have global impact is one decent way of cracking this equation. You do get funded for the amount of products you give them, which in turn gets distributed. So I think it's a reasonable strategy to approach the government. However, not directly working with the government in long term is viable for a business. I do recognize that. So I think a fine balance between intergovernmental and some amount of government work can help you crack that equation, wherein your investors will also see a lot of traction. Eventually, most investors are only looking at a long-term monetary benefit. So if we can create a traction value around how these institutions are recognizing the potential, I think a lot of startups in that domain have been able to crack it. And there is a very good international market. Of course, the US and North America again is very vocal about this. So I think you have a good global prospect around this. You feel free to share your pitch deck with me if you have something ready. So I'll give it a thought if I wish to invest or maybe someone else. But one of the initial things is to have a good investor, people who are not very judgmental about it, people who are also very supportive of it. Most good investors today, my friends Ritesh Malik and all, they always say that we invest on the bus driver and not the bus. So sometimes the potential of the startup has to be taken into consideration rather than only the monetary
No,
benefits.
I totally agree with you, and I'll try to get your email ID and reach out to you separately
100%.
through WhatsApp. Thank you so much for your time and have a great day ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh. One last question we will take up. Dhanabalji, I think you have.
Hi, Mr.
Dhanabalji.
Sudhant. It was,
Hello.
Hi, it was
Yes.
fantastic session, and particularly in the portion of this ESG part, where the industries has to move towards the ESG to achieving the ESG goals. So my question is that we are an agri-tech startup and we are working in rural areas, converting we are converting anything we found agri waste, we are converting into a valuable input to another industry. So we are working on like marigold flowers, which has been not so unsold or it is withered flowers. We are using it as a source of a chemical called lutein and zeaxanthin, and we are processing it to form a poultry feed. So we are generating poultry feed. So we are generating the income to the farmers out of the waste. They think that it is their farm waste, but actually we are giving some value to that. And further, we are just creating this briquettes, bio briquettes, which replaces the coal and the wood in the boiling boilers, in the steam boilers and other things.
I think agri-tech is incredible, Dhanabalji. You are in the right industry because most of the work around technology into sustainability, it points towards agri-tech. So it's in a country like India, there is a huge potential. I think if you already have a decent market, identify that one product lineup that's doing really well, and invest more on this. Invest more on the research and innovation. How you can further refine it and make it perfect. So if you can, focus on that, that will be great. The other way to see this is that in the initial years, you may have to do a lot of trial and error. So doing that is necessary to be able to land that one key product, that one MVP you think is the most successful outcome of your startup. So I think agri-tech does require a lot of research. So while you are also focused on, establishing the business vertical, do give the research vertical a little bit of insight, because there is a whole lot of potential that it can unlock.
Okay. Thank you, Dhanabalji, for your question. And now we've come to end of the session. So I'll formally close it. On behalf of our organization, our incubation center, that is Startup Incubation and Innovation Center at IIT Kanpur, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks for you for your insightful and engaging session on this essential topic of future-proofing sustainability, emerging trends and opportunities. Your visionary approach and expertise in integrating technology with sustainability must have left a lasting impact on all our attendees. We deeply appreciate your time and effort that you took to share your knowledge, the practical takeaways you provided for startups aiming to build resilient, sustainable businesses in today's fast evolving landscape. To all our attendees, we'd like to extend thanks to you also for your participation and enthusiasm during the session. We hope that Siddharth's talk provided you valuable perspectives and strategies that you can apply to your ventures. We look forward to seeing how each of you will use these insights to create sustainable and impactful solutions in the future. In case if anyone wishes to connect with Siddharth, please let me know. I'll help you to build this contact. Once again, thank you so
I'll
much,
also
Siddharth. Yes.
drop my coordinates on the chat section, so you
Sure.
can probably take it from there before
Sure,
leaving. Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you for
so
this
much, Vatsala,
exceptional session.
and
Thank you so
excellent
much.
talking
Have
to
a
you all.
good
Thank
day.
you so
Yeah.
much.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you.